Hi, so today I'm going to be presenting ChatSifter, which is an application we started shortly after the October 7th massacre. It's one of several tools we've written to help in the fight to return the hostages and defeat the evil that is Hamas terrorism. ChatSifter is a framework to gather intelligence from social media posts. We've started with Telegram and plan in the future to add many of the other social media platforms. We began with just a short list of Telegram channels and we've expanded from there. The basic strategy we're using is to collect the data in multiple stages. First, we use brute force to download messages as quickly as possible in near real time. This download runs as a continuous background task. We store these messages and the metadata in a local data store, and then use a combination of search, natural language processing, and large language models like ChatGPT to analyze and inspect them. This tool is designed to be flexible. The vast majority of the data we're collecting is in Arabic, and we allow the analyst to work in whatever language he's most comfortable in, English, Hebrew, or Arabic. For the moment, I'm going to stay in English just to match the language that I'm presenting in right now. This is the main screen, the messages search page. It allows you to pick a time frame and many attributes to filter by. Let's look for the last 3 days and see what we have. So we're only downloading a sample of 100 messages, but these 3 days have had over 100,000, probably close to 500,000 messages. And for each one of these, we show the channel it came from a telegram, the precise message ID, the time it was posted, the author, which is not always available, but some posts do have authors. Unfortunately, not in the sample, but when there's an author present, he will appear. For each one, we can translate from the native language into English or into Hebrew. We could also, for example, filter to show only messages that have a photograph and contain geographic locations. We actually collect geographic locations in two ways. Some channels, neighborhood or city channels, are tagged as the whole channel belonging to a region, and others we can identify any location that's mentioned in the channel. We do this using the Rosette Natural Language Toolkit, which contains some very powerful tools for entity extraction, including locations. So for each of these, we've now searched by photograph, by location. Let's translate, for example, this one. We've got some pretty long messages this time, but that's okay. So here we have the English. I don't know what this guy is talking about. Looks like it's an ad for something. Let's look for some more interesting ones. Okay, let's try a different selection, see if we get some better set of messages this time. This does give us a random sampling of 100 each time. Okay, this set looks a little better for demo purposes. Let's translate this first one into English. What's it a photograph of? So this is claiming that the Israeli occupation has led attacks in the West Bank, in Hebron, Jerusalem, and Nablus. You can see we automatically recognized the names of those locations, translated them for convenience into Hebrew and English, and this is the corresponding photograph. Here's another one. A statement by, looks like Idon Sar, and location recognized, Gaza. We can also do a more selective search. Let's find messages that contain the location Gaza. There's a white space at the end. Yeah, let's get rid of that. And let's search. So messages that have a photograph, have a location, and contain the location Gaza in them from the last 3 days. Okay, so each one of them, the matched location is highlighted, and we can translate. We can download photographs. And gather other information. We could also search for arbitrary text within the messages. Let's look, for example, instead of a location, for any mention of UNRWA, let's say since the start of the month. This is in English, so there'll probably be many fewer hits, but I suspect UNRWA has been mentioned enough that this is likely to find some hits. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so here's a message in French, but no problem, we can translate it into whatever language we want, into English. UNRWA is the beating heart of the relief effort in Gaza, etc., etc., etc. And once again, we can filter across. We can look for any of these messages that have photographs. In general, this is a very flexible search interface. We expose all of these, and we can very easily expose other characteristics of the messages, both raw and as processed in different tools, both classic natural language processing, clustering, and large language models. Let's jump to some of the other things we've done. One was the focus on large language models. We did this much more the first few weeks of October, where we can look for messages we process with GPT-4, with GPT 3.5, or by Anthropic. Let's look for GPT-4 and see what we have. So we use the large language model to create a key phrase for each post, and here we've clustered by different key phrases, and you can see these are all the ones that are called for attack, and sure enough, if we translate, it comes in as, well, it got it wrong in this case. I will stop the fight. I'm not sure if that's a threat or a peacekeeper. Let's try another one. Okay, so here is targeting with heavy bullets and explosive devices. Sounds like a call for attack to me. And so on all of these match, or anniversary of martyrdom. Actually, I'm doing a little extra work here. This translation up here is something that uses Google Translate, and we can run it on any of the messages. But in addition, we've passed these through GPT-4, and we have the translation that was done by GPT, which is slightly different, arguably better, and a few more details. We also have an attempt at analyzing the level of risk here. What's the threat level? How aggressive and how urgent is it? That's still a work in progress. But most interesting, we have these key phrases. We could do something else with the key phrases, which is we've generated a timeline. This takes a little while to run. It's creating it dynamically. But now we see hour by hour what were the most active clusters of post over that time. So we're looking now at October 1st. Should point out this screen, plus we wrote it early on, is displaying times in GMT, not in Israel time. Local time is 3 hours later. So for example, 8 o'clock here, Zulu is actually 11 in the morning Israel. So we're on the 1st. Let's jump ahead to October 7th. So we can see we're now in the night before, and the focus is on an Iranian statement, request for information. A report of fighting has a few, not much going on, still pretty quiet. We're actually in the middle of the night, so no surprise it's very quiet. But now we're getting very close to the attacks on October 7th. Let's go forward another hour, and all of a sudden everything explodes. Well, literally everything exploded then. We're seeing reports of explosions, reports of shelling, statements by Hamas, call for resistance, reports of prisoners. That was probably the first mention of the hostages. Reports of fighting, clashes with occupation forces of Israel. More report of prisoners. Reports of prisoners, reports of fighting seem to be the ongoing theme the next few hours. And as we go forward in time, you can see the next evening is way, way more active than the previous evening. There was a lot of chatter going on at this point. And this view gives a view from 30,000 feet, if you will, a summary of everything that's going on, making it easy to monitor the overall sentiment of the Telegram channels. One problem with this approach is that it's pretty expensive to generate. We took the original posts, we passed all of them, several tens of thousands in this case, and several 100,000 a day to do it in scale, to get the key phrases. We then clustered the key phrases into these categories, and we then looked for similarities between them. The expensive stage here is the large language model creating the key phrases. This can be replaced by cheaper tools, but another option we've started to explore is to work directly with vectorizing the original posts rather than reducing them to key phrases first. We've not taken this very far, but if you read Arabic, you can see that this cluster's in Hebrew. It has done a pretty good attempt at clustering them together, and more work is needed here. So basically what we have is a tool that's primarily a human-driven search tool, but we've started adding in some AI tools to make it easy to highlight points of interest and sentiment and directions. There's still a lot more work to go. As we move forward, some of the things we like to do are to expand beyond Telegram to other social media platforms, to use clustering more effectively, including clustering by geolocation and by author, to identify the most active channels and users, to do smarter tracking of changes in sentiment and topic, and so on. We're very open to comments and requests. If there are any features you need, we would love to help and work together to help bring home the hostages. And we hope ChatSifter will be a useful tool in doing this. Thank you.